everybody, welcome. My name is Julie Egan of Yoga for Healing, based in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm so happy to be practicing with you today. This practice is going to be a trauma-sensitive grounding yoga practice. So what does that mean to be a grounding practice? That means that we are going to focus on tools to help us come back into the present moment. Sometimes we can get a little bit lost in our heads, a little bit stuck in the past or the future. So grounding is really just coming back to the present moment and notice what's going on in the now. So before we hop in, a couple things. I have a blanket and a couple yoga blocks. If you don't have those things, not to worry, you don't need them. You can also substitute them if you'd like for maybe a rolled up towel and a stack of books. Anything that really brings the ground closer to you will work. And also just know before we start any yoga that this is always your practice. You're in control. If you would like to use this time to just lay down and rest, that is perfectly fine. If you want to move a little bit more than I am or take a break, do whatever you need to do to care for yourself during this time. So let's go ahead and get started. Beginning in a seated position, any seated position that feels comfortable. Feel free to cross the legs. You might sit on the knees, or if laying down feels more comfortable, you're welcome to do that as well. And once you've found a supportive shape to get started, you can begin to just settle into this moment. So just starting at first by noticing the five senses. Feeling where your body is making contact with the mat. Perhaps you root a little bit more into your support. From there, you can start to notice any noises in the room. Maybe you notice the temperature of the air, anything you smell. And if it feels okay, you can start to bring your focus inward. Your eyes might be open or closed if that feels comfortable. Take a moment to just observe what you're bringing with you right now, emotionally and physically. Not judging anything, not trying to change, just observing, knowing that whatever you're bringing with you to this practice is perfect. You might start to notice your breathing. If you're feeling any areas of discomfort or tension, you might place a hand over those areas. Just take in the warmth of your hand. And if it feels okay, you can start to invite in a full breath. Maybe exploring with letting the belly and the lungs expand on the inhale. You might explore softening the muscles on the exhale. Know that if staying with the breath or these internal sensations feels like too much, you can always come back to something external, the feeling of your body on the floor, or maybe a noise in the room, to bring your awareness back. As you feel ready, you can bring the hands down and you can invite the right hand over to the left shoulder. Just letting the weight of the right hand completely rest on the left shoulder. You can begin to cross the left hand over to the right shoulder. And you might here drop the chin down towards the heart. Notice the length in the back of the neck. And from there you can begin to bring the right ear towards the right shoulder. You might start to notice a stretch in the left side of the neck. And as you exhale, you can bring the chin down towards the heart once again. This time you can bring the left ear over towards the left shoulder. You might notice a difference in this side of the neck. And from there, you might start to move. So maybe you alternate the head from side to side. Maybe you take more of a full circling of the head. Or maybe you notice one area that needs a little extra attention. You can stay there if you'd like. So still holding in your awareness the feeling of your body being grounded down to the floor or the mat, and also noticing the sensations in the neck. Moving as fast or as slow as you'd like. Always moving at your own pace. And once you feel ready, you can start to bring your gaze up to center and allow the hands to rest by the sides. We'll start to reach the left fingertips up towards the sky, and maybe you start to take a stretch over to the right. Notice if you're becoming untethered to the mat in the left side of the body, and see if maybe you can root down again through the left hip. Your gaze might be at the floor or up under the arm. And as you're ready, you can bring the spine upright and take a stretch over to the left. Feel free to add movement if you'd like. Here you can maybe start to circle out the arms or stay in stillness. Perhaps you take a breath. When you're ready, arms can reach back up overhead. You can begin to twist over to the right. So taking it slow, finding a gentle twist, and letting the hands fall down naturally. So take a moment to notice what's going on in the spine here. Seeing if we can stay rooted in our seat, and then grow tall through the crown. If you notice that you're kind of hugging in the muscles in the eyes or maybe hunching, perhaps it's a sign from the body to maybe come a little bit out of that twist so you can find length in the spine. Again, just noticing what's going on in the body and adjusting as needed. When you feel ready, you can unwind, reach the fingertips up, and take that twist over to the left side. As you inhale, you might explore lengthening up through the spine a little more, and on the exhale, you might explore twisting a little more. Never forcing anything, knowing that you're enough exactly as you are. When you're ready, you can begin to unwind. Arms can sweep back up overhead. And as you exhale, you can let the fingertips float down to the knees. So on an exhale, we can begin to round through the spine. Perhaps letting the chin fall towards the heart. You can let the shoulder blades slide away from one another. And on your inhale, you can begin to press the heart forward. You might lift your gaze. Notice what it's like to slide the shoulders down the back. And you can begin to move. So you might start to move between these two shapes of the spine, this rounding and this arching. Or you might start to move in a different way. You might start to circle out the spine, circle out the torso. Know that you can move as fast or as slow as you'd like. You can make these movements as big or as small as you'd like. honoring whatever your body might be needing at this moment. Invitation to maybe sync up your movement with your breath. Inhaling in one direction and exhaling in the other. And as you feel ready, we'll begin to bring the spine back to neutral, and we'll make our way into a tabletop position. So that is wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. You might use your blanket for underneath the knees if you'd like. And we can, again, find that support underneath us. So rooting down through the hands. Notice where your hands are making contact with the mat. And you might start to make a little bit more space between the fingers. Maybe you see what it's like to press down through all 10 knuckles, press down through the pads of the fingers, maybe even press down through the tops of the feet, and notice how that feels. Maybe you explore lengthening the spine here from the crown of the head all the way to the tailbone. Take a breath. And when you're ready, we'll start to make our way to the top of our mat. So making our way to standing, unrolling through the spine. Take your time. And we'll begin to bring the feet about hips distance apart. So take a moment to really notice the feet here. If your eyes are open, you might gaze down at the feet, maybe lift the toes. Notice the feeling of the floor or the mat underneath your feet. Maybe rock your weight a little bit back and forth. And from there, we can root down through all four corners of the feet. So rooting down through the inner edge, the big toe edge of the foot, the pinky toe edge, rooting down through the inner heel and the outer heel. And from that supportive base, again, you can start to grow tall through the crown. So noticing this rooting down of the feet and this lengthening up with the crown of the head. And you can begin to reach the fingers out and up on an inhale. As you exhale, you can let the fingertips float down by your hips. We'll do that a few more times, just exploring moving with your breath. So you might allow the entire inhale to bring the fingertips up, and the entire exhale to bring the fingertips down. And again, if moving with the breath is not supportive, feel free to just move however you'd like. So you might hold in your mind and your awareness both the actions of grounding down through the feet and moving through the fingertips. And the next time you find your fingertips up overhead, we'll pause there. You can soften a little bit through the knees and then allow the fingertips to float down. So we're coming into a forward fold. So this might be more of a crouch, or you might find your blocks, or maybe the floor. And feel free to find some movement here. You might rock a little bit in the feet, you might sway side to side. See if you can let your neck and your shoulders just kind of release here if that's available. As you're ready, we can start to bring the hands to the shins or the tops of the legs, and we'll lengthen again through the spine from crown of the head to tail, noticing what it's like to slide the shoulders away from the ears. And as you exhale, you can fold back forward. Bringing your hands to either your blocks or the mat, you can start to step the left foot back, and we'll lower down onto the left knee. Feel free to use your blanket if you'd like. You can bring the hands to either side of the right foot and take a moment here to get settled. So you might explore shifting your left knee back a little bit if you'd like, or a little bit more forward to see what's comfortable there. And maybe you walk your right foot out a little bit more to the right or a little bit more towards the center, just finding what works. You might stay here, or you might bring your hands up to the top of the right leg, or maybe the fingertips find their way up overhead. Take a breath. And again, you might find movement. You might start to kind of come up and down, or maybe you find stillness. If you'd like, you might explore pressing the heart forward, up and back, finding a small back bend. And then when you're ready, the fingertips can find their way back down to the floor or your blocks. You can bring the right knee back under the right hip. And the left foot can find its way between the hands. So again, take your time to shift into a version of this shape that feels supportive. And if you'd like, you can bring the hands up in whatever way you'd like. And here, maybe you take a moment to notice if you're holding the breath or squeezing the muscles in the face. And if you are, that might be a sign from the body to find a different variation. Maybe bring the hands down to the blocks, or maybe lessen the stretch in the legs. Wherever you are, we'll take about one more breath here. And when you're ready, you can start to step it up to the top of your mat, once again in that forward fold shape. And as you inhale, we'll begin to find that halfway lift, that long spine. Shoulders slide away from the ears. And exhale will fold us forward. So from here, feel free to come to rest, as always, at any time. Or if you'd like to keep moving a little more, we'll slowly unwind through the spine, all the way through the crown. And allow the shoulders to slide away from the ears. So again, take a look at the feet. Maybe reground through the four corners of the feet. You might bring the hands together in front of the heart and take a moment to notice if anything is maybe shifted in the mind or the body. Know that if it hasn't, that's fine. Again, just observing. And if you'd like to explore with balance here, you can start to bring the weight into the left foot. So just notice how that feels at first. And from there, maybe you peel the right heel up off the mat. And this might be where you stay. If you'd like to explore with tree pose, you can maybe kickstand right heel to left ankle. Perhaps you find the right foot press up against the calf of the left leg, or you might bring the right foot above the knee. And then with the hands, they can stay on the hips, they can stay at heart center, or maybe the fingers reach up towards the sky. So know that there's no right or wrong way to do this. You might come into one version and then realize it doesn't work and come out. And then once you found a variation that you feel comfortable in, you might find a spot on the floor or the wall to focus on. Maybe hugging in the muscles around the navel to notice if that affects your balance at all. And we'll take in another breath here, perhaps letting it be smooth and full. And when you feel ready, you can set the right foot down, maybe circle out the left ankle. And from here, we will step the left foot back. So taking a big step back with the left foot. If your blanket's in the way, you might just move it. So your left knee can find its way to the floor if you'd like, or you can keep it lifted. Wherever you are, again, take that minute or two to get settled. So if your knee is lifted and you feel a bit wobbly, you might start to kind of heel toe the right foot out to the right a little bit. Take your time to get settled. You can press the left knee up towards the sky if it's lifted. Hands might be on the hips or maybe up overhead. And soften the shoulders here. And find that grounding in the front foot. So really pressing down through the right foot. Maybe find an energetic action of peeling it back and see if that changes anything. And if you'd like, you might explore taking a twist to the right. Arms can stay in a teed out position, or you might bring the left hand inside the right foot. Take a breath. And again, notice if we might be straining or finding a version of this shape that feels unsupportive. You can always take action to find a shape here that feels supportive to you. When you feel ready, you can bring the right hand down to the block. You can lower the left knee. We'll come into that tabletop position. Feel free here to find rest in Balasana. Again, invitation to stay here as long as you'd like, or if you're ready to keep moving. We'll rise back up into that tabletop position, and again, make our way to the top of the mat. Slowly unwinding here. You can let the feet ground down. Find your support underneath you, finding that tall spine. And then when you're ready, we can start to shift the weight over into the right foot. So again, you can stay here, or perhaps you peel up the left heel or kickstand it against the right ankle. Option to stay or find any of those other variations. So sole of the foot might come to the calf or the thigh. Arms can be wherever it's comfortable. You might hear my dog snoring here. Notice if you're breathing. Once you feel ready to come out, you can slowly bring the left foot down, circle out the ankle. And as you're ready, right foot steps back, finding that lunge either with the knee lifted or the knee lowered. Take your time. And then maybe here you explore with peeling the left hip back and the right hip forward and see if that changes anything. In your own time, you can keep the arms as they are. It can reach up overhead. And if you'd like to explore that twist on this side, you can start to twist over to the left, either keeping the arms open or maybe reaching down towards the floor or a block with your right hand. When you're ready, left hand sweeps down to the floor or the block. We'll lower the right knee. We'll bring the left knee under the left hip. Big toes can come to touch. You can send your hips back towards your heels, so they might not totally reach, and that's fine. And if Balasana, child's pose, is not a supportive resting position, feel free to take rest in a different shape. You might start to notice if your breath has shifted. And again, if not, that's perfectly fine. As you're ready, you can walk your hands in towards your knees. And we can come to a seat with the legs out in front of us. Feel free to bend your knees as much as is comfortable. You can always, if you have that towel or that blanket, you can put it underneath the knees, but if not, no worries. You can just let the knees be as they are. And again, notice where you're making contact with the ground. And from there, you can start to grow a little bit taller. You can begin to walk your hands forward to whatever degree is comfortable. So the intention here is to find a stretch in the backs of the legs. So know that you have control over how much or how little of a stretch you take, and you can come out at any time. Once you feel ready, Perhaps you invite in a full breath. Eyes can be open or closed. As you feel ready, hands can walk back up towards your hips. You can begin to make your way back onto the mats, however it's comfortable for you to get there. From here, you can bring the arms out into a T shape, or you might cactus out the arms. You can allow the knees to fall over to the right, finding a gentle twist. So if this is too much on your low back, to have the knees all the way down towards the ground, if you have that blanket or that block, you can place them underneath the knees if you'd like. Notice your left shoulder. See if you can allow the left shoulder to soften towards the floor. And again, you might invite in a full breath here if that's available. And if you notice that you've sort of started to enter the thinking mind, perhaps you bring your awareness back to the feeling of your body on the mat. When you're ready, the hips can make their way back onto the mat, and you can allow the knees to fall over to the left. Your gaze might be up at the ceiling. You might find your gaze at the right fingertips. You might check back in with the five senses here. Noticing any noises in the room. Perhaps what you see on the ceiling. And in your own time, you can allow the back to find its way onto the mat. From here, feel free to take any last movements you'd like. You might draw the knees in towards the heart and rock back and forth. Maybe circle out the low back. When you feel ready, you can start to make your way into your final resting pose, into Shavasana, and know that that can look however you'd like it to look. So you might lay on your mat with your arms and legs straight out, maybe the knees are bent, or if a different position or shape feels more restful, feel free to take your final resting pose in a different shape. Once you get settled, again, you might allow the gaze to soften or close the eyes. And then from here, you might see if you can allow the body to be completely supported by the floor underneath you. Maybe notice if you can let go of any effort that is not needed to simply be. Maybe take a minute to notice if anything has shifted for you in the mind or the body. And again, not judging anything. Becoming aware without judgment, knowing that your entire experience is welcome here. Knowing that in times of overwhelm, where things feel out of control, we can always come back to the feeling of our feet on the ground, feeling of being supported by the earth to bring us back into the present moment, the here and now. Please feel free to stay and rest for as long as you'd like. Thank you so much for practicing with me, and I hope to practice again with you in the future.